Hey everyone. So we're back here, and as you can see, the screen is still where we left off, and we're talking about rest. So I told you at the end of the last session, we're going to start talking about sleep, and the sleep is the foundation for utterly everything. I just can't say enough how important sleep is. So I want to just say, lack of sleep can really manifest physically. You really notice this, by the way, when you start getting older. I mean, it is a big deal now when I lose my sleep. When I was young, I could miss a whole night of sleep, and I'd still go to work the next day, and hey, I was sort of on the ball. But it does change you, and when you stop having enough sleep and enough time of recovery for your body, you suffer. So when you're overworked and you're not getting enough sleep, the stress hormones called cortisol and adrenaline pump through our blood. The boost of the hormones long term. Let's say you're always never sleeping. You're burning that midnight oil. You're on the go all the time. Your body's just sort of going to burn in, releasing a lot of cortisol and adrenaline to actually help you continually go. It just always be on the go. It's juggling a lot of plates because it's got to keep you going there, and you're not having rest and recovery time, which would be your sleep. So these hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, are going to influence absolutely everything, including, it says, the boost of these hormones long term can lead to adrenal exhaustion and overall hormonal balance. So symptoms of hormonal balance can include depression, weight gain, estrogen dominance, and chronic fatigue. All of these things accelerate the aging process, but think about everything else they're doing to us as we're aging, right? Our hormones are whacked out. Now we end up going to the doctor and we ask the doctor, can you give me I need some creams, I need some help. Where so many times it might just go right back to something like this. You're not sleeping, right? And working with somebody on sleeping it's a real thing. It's just like you going to the gym and wanting to lose weight. You really need to spend the time to learn how you can start sleeping again, right? So 4 benefits of sleeping well, these are kind of obvious, but obviously it relaxes and lowers your stress. It improves your mood and your energy. Do you ever notice that it really happens this way when you're at home and, you're either with your kids or your partner or whatever, and you say, man, I just slept so good last night. You just literally feel different. You feel so good. And when you get those good nights, you can really recognize the difference between the nights you don't get it. Because now you're like, oh, I'm back to the normal of feeling tired, right? So it improves your mood and it improves your energy. The second one is it helps to maintain a healthy body and healthy weight. We're going to go into that here in a minute because there actually has been studies done on this and it's been proven. I mean, it's hard to believe that if you sleep well, you can lose weight. I mean, I know you want to know this. Uh, Number three, it keeps active at sports and improves your muscle coordination. I mean, that's true. And you ever haven't had enough sleep and you feel like you're just a klutz, you're falling and bumping into things and you're just not feeling your normal self, right? It also, when you get enough sleep, it improves retention of your brain. It increases the ability to pay attention. So one of the things with ADD and ADHD and the problems that especially see in children is that's that number one thing again is they're not having enough sleep at night. And it's just, it's hard to keep your attention. It's hard to keep the focus there. So here's some little tips we're going to get into here. I really, really harp on this one thing to people. And if you happen to be a night owl, it might be hard for you at first. But if you can get to sleep before midnight, it'll change your world. So going to bed and waking up at the same time each day, even on weekends, can help get your body into a rhythm. We actually call it the circadian rhythm. So your body actually works on its own time clock. In the old days, when people did not have all these gadgets and we didn't have Wi-Fi and TV wasn't even there, people basically, they would go to sleep when it got dark. It gets dark, you go to bed. When the sun comes up, you get up, right? This is how our body clocks really work. But 2 hours of sleep before midnight is worth 4 hours of sleep after midnight. Now, this is major. Now, if you imagine, a couple hundred years ago and they went to bed when the sun went down, depending what season it was, they might be going to bed at, 5 or 6 o'clock at night, but then they'd be up early, like, the crack of dawn or before. So our body's clocks really matter. For some people, daylight saving time really messes with them because their body clock is off, right? Just that 1 hour even. So before the advent of TV and internet, people would go to bed shortly after sundown. I mean, look at animals. This is a prime example, right? We go through this hour time change, and your animal, your dog, or let's say your baby, they're up at the same time because their body clock is saying, okay, the dog or the cat goes, I need to be fed. And you're thinking, well, wait, we just had a time change here, so this is a different deal. I'm going to feed you in another hour. That animal doesn't care that there's been a time change. They know this is time to eat right now. This is time to get up. Your cat in your room is active and busy at a certain, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I want to sleep. Circadian rhythm, the way that the body works with hours, the way it works with light, and the way it works with darkness. We are made to sleep in darkness and be up in the light. So I'm going to talk about two things here. One is going to be eating before bedtime. The other thing is going to be not eating before bedtime. Now, there's a few pros and cons with each. I kind of have a preference, and I'm going to also tell you what I do. But anyway, let's talk about this. So eating before bedtime. If you choose to eat before you go to bed, your timing of doing that is really going to matter. Okay, and I'm going to talk about why. Number one, if you eat before you go to bed, you have to learn to avoid all the foods that turn to sugar quickly in your body. So if you're going to have ice cream before you get into your bed at night, your blood sugar is going to shoot way up, and then you're going to feel sleepy and you're going to fall asleep easy, but you're going to be up in 2 hours because your blood sugar is going to drop, right? So it says here, if you choose to eat before bed, avoid grains and sugars. These raise blood sugar and they inhibit your sleep. You may fall asleep quickly, but later when your blood sugar drops and you get hypoglycemic, you will wake up and not be able to fall back asleep. Alcohol does the same thing. I can't tell you guys how many women I talk to regularly who have to have that, they're just like, oh, I just really got to have my glass of wine before I go to bed. And it ends up being the same problem, right? Alcohol before bed also, the blood sugar raises, and so you get sleepy, you fall asleep after you drink it, but then again, you're going to be awake. Also, it depletes magnesium. Every drink of alcohol, no matter what kind of alcohol you drink, depletes magnesium and it raises your blood sugar. This keeps you from getting into the deeper stages of sleep where the body does most of its healing and you're going to be wakeful throughout the night. So this is a really important thing, whether you choose to eat before bed or not choose to eat before bed, which can be something called intermittent fasting, which we're going to talk about. Either way you look at it, you really have to think about this. The last time you eat, are you eating things that really convert quickly to glucose? What kind of foods are you eating before you go to bed? And what things would be more conducive to a good night's sleep? If you happen to have gut issues and you have H. pylori or you have candida problems or you've got SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, there are so many problems already with your gut, and sometimes eating something before bed can stir it all up. So this is one of the reasons I actually, in the last set of videos and modules when we did diet, I talked to you guys about fiber. If you don't remember it, go back to the 4 diet modules and go to number 4. And I cover the right kind of fiber to take and why we want to take fiber, how it normalizes and stabilizes blood sugar. You would sure want to do it if you had maybe a glass of wine before bed. You would sure want to do it if you ate a bunch of sugar, maybe had some ice cream, or had it was a birthday party, you ate a bunch of sugar before you were going to go to bed that night. So fiber is so valuable. Like I said, it's on the other set of modules, number 4 for diet. And it's going to talk to you about fiber. I personally love to take, I don't eat a lot before bed, but I love to take my fiber drink before I go to bed at night because it stabilizes blood sugar. It makes me feel full. And I sleep really well on it. For people with SIBO, H. pylori, and other gut problems, it can be very stabilizing for your stomach when you go to sleep at night. Personally, I love it. Okay, so that's my choice. The third one, don't drink any fluids within 2 hours of going to bed. I just noticed, we see it with kids. You're trying to put your child to bed. Oh, I got to go to the bathroom. And you learn to not give your child, a lot of drinking of fluids before they go to bed at night. Even with adults, though, 2 hours at least before going to bed, be careful how much you're drinking. It's going to reduce your likelihood of needing to get up and go to the bathroom. And also another thing with light and darkness, you get up to go to the bathroom, and you have to turn the light on and now you're awake. And there's just so many issues with this, The next one, avoid caffeine. So a recent study showed that in some people, caffeine is not metabolized efficiently, and they feel the effects long after consuming it. I know for me, I don't have any caffeine after about 11:30 in the morning. I just have to be done with it because it will, if I have it in the afternoon, I'm going to be up later, right? So an afternoon cup of coffee or even black tea or other things with caffeine can keep some people from falling asleep later. Also, some pills, including diet pills and headache medications, contain caffeine, like Excedrin has a lot of caffeine. So these are things to pay attention to as well. Avoid foods that you might be sensitive to. This is true for dairy and wheat products, and they may have an effect on your sleep. They can cause sleep apnea, raise blood sugar, excess congestion, GI upset, and gas. So when it comes to carbs before bed, your quality matters, right? Carbs from a healthy, fiber-rich, real food, like maybe you had a yam and you put good butter, or some ghee on a yam before you went to bed. It's carb. It's a carb, but it's a complex carb that's not super high in starch. It's got some good butter for the good fat to slow down the starchiness from that carb, and it's fiber rich. If you have something like potato chips or ice cream, like I said, you're going to go to bed and you're going to be the blood sugar issue. So some people know about it, the Mediterranean diet, and I like to bring it up because it emphasizes whole foods. I think the whole 30 diet as well that people have told me about is a good one. Paleo, ketogenic style diets. It emphasizes whole foods, lean protein. Well, not necessarily lean proteins. I'm for a high fat protein. I go for the highest fat meat all the time. I like liverwurst as well, liver and organ meats. Fresh vegetables, fruits, a moderate amount of grain. I recommend really cutting out all grains. And you minimize those sugars is linked to improvements with insomnia and good sleep. The effects on sleep from moving from a high carb to a low carb diet can also depend, like I said earlier, the type of carbs you're going to eat and the timing of the eating, especially in the evening. So you've got to kind of figure out, what is the last time I'm going to have something to eat? If you tend to have a lot of gut issues and you get that hollow feeling in your stomach, you might do best with my fiber mix because the fiber is going to expand in there. It's going to make you feel full. If you've got a lot of gut issues and you eat maybe something like this yam with butter on it, that might set you off and you may get a lot of gas after eating that. You may not sleep well. So I think the importance of which things we choose to eat when we go into our if we're going to, so I said we're doing two things, either to eat before bed or not eat before bed. Again, this is really important that you get to know yourself and you get to know or maybe this will be the first time you do get to know yourself. You're going to try both of these things and I'm going to give you tips on how to try them, right? So that was eating before bed. And I just tried to go over the types of foods, the timing of when you ate those foods, and suggesting possibly instead of eating food that you might want to do fiber. And I talked in those previous modules. So you're looking at acacia, slippery elm, psyllium husk, maybe taking that with my fiber mix with maybe some coconut oil and some liquid bentonite, putting that in water and drinking it. It's going to thicken up in there. It's going to make you feel full. You're going to be able to go to sleep. Okay, so now we're going to talk here about not eating before bedtime. We just did eating. So some of you have heard about intermittent fasting, and it's just super valuable. And all it simply means, and we actually can do it by accident. Let's say you have your last meal or you eat at 6:30 p.m. And let's say after you eat, you just don't eat again until the next morning. How many hours is that? 6:30 p.m. to 6:30 in the morning you're looking at 12 hours. So by the time you would eat again in the morning, you've actually been sort of fasting, right? Intermittent fasting. That means you haven't eaten anything in 12 hours. Now, some people can't do this, and I'm going to go over what people can't do it. But the people that can do it, this works really well, by the way, for a lot of my clients. They like intermittent fasting. Not eating all those hours allows their body to actually be empty of food, and they like to go to sleep like that. In fact, this first bullet point here says healthy sleep is usually a quiet digestive system, and a body is in repair mode. Healthy, typical sleep is a natural period of fasting, right? You're going to bed, and your body, in those hours of sleeping, you're technically fasting. You're not eating. So we can use this actually to speed up our metabolism. There's many books written on it nowadays. Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G, has a book called The Diabetes Code, which is really about intermittent fasting. And if you have diabetes 1 or 2, you might want to read Dr. Fung's book because he gets a lot into this. The timing of the eating, the amount of the calories, how to eat, when to eat, all these things count and they all matter. So intermittent fasting helps the body stay well aligned for sleep. Eating during the evening can cause the body to be actively engaged in digestion. So this whole idea is your body's not digesting, You're going to be able to go to bed, lay in bed, and not have that going on. And like I said earlier, if you've got a lot of gut problems, you may not want to be trying to digest when you go to sleep. Okay, we're almost at 15 minutes, you guys. I'm going to start going right now into the third module, and I will see you over there. And I can't wait. We're going to continue with not eating before bedtime.